This is the EGC 20k Age of Empires 4 tournament. The quarterfinals are on, the last 8 generals are battling it out. Let a new war begin! Good day to you. My name's Anuki, and I've only gotten run out of tea and biscuits. You should stockpile on all the essentials, ready for this best of 5 unlike me. Let's get down to business though, shall we? In the southern quadrant with their blue sheets on the buildings leading the Delhi Sultanate, it's Lucifron. Awesome to see the Delhi Sultanate right out the door in round 1. Opposing them in the north, governing the English, rolling out the red carpet for the Viper. The map is Lipany. Well, it's barely Lipany, barely any elevated areas at all. Our slaves, lower class citizens getting started on their food supply. And I gotta say, it's a good job that peasants are happy to eat raw meat and only raw meat, because farms just end up being meat harvests, even berries. Step 1, grab berry. Step 2, deposit meat. The olden days were pretty bloody. Okay then, England versus Delhi Sultanate. I suppose we better look at this. Can I have the Civ breakdown, please, so we can talk about the conflict of these two peoples? Starting with the Delhi Sultanate's basics. Already Lucifron we saw getting those berries, beginning with a mill, since that's the fastest way to acquire food for the Delhi Sultanate. When most people think Delhi Sultanate, they think it's Fantastic, but it isn't Fantastic. It hasn't been Fantastic since the 90s. What I think is sacred sites, being able to capture them in the Dark Age, can grant some nice early gold income. Research, of course, works differently. It's all free of charge. It takes longer to research, though, and we could go into detail, but that'll take way too many minutes. To put it simply, if research is free and you build 2 blacksmiths, you can research 2 things at the same time for free. That's not too shabby. You can also speed up research with scholars, but those cost gold, and you kind of want to hold on to your gold early on. We'll see what Lucifron does, though. We'll talk about the landmarks as they arrive, of course. The council hall spotted there by the scout. What about the English, then? Those rootin'-tootin' longbow-shooting fellas will probably be up to using their longbows once they break into that feudal age. The English are very simple people. We like queues, and the chances of seeing a long queue of longbows is high. Besides this, they have access to an early man-at-arms that could be quite useful, and they have some farm bonuses for their meat grain. It's 100% meat in a grain. Lastly, of course, the network of castles bonus, a tremendous bonus to have when town centers, outposts, and keeps detect an enemy. It buffs the units in the vicinity, making them fire faster. But looking at Lucifron here, I'm sensing they are not so interested in getting a sacred site early. So there must be something else in mind. Maybe they truly do just want elephants, but those are late-game beasts, so maybe they just want the free research. In any case, they are going to have to deal with longbows in a few minutes. Whilst we wait for that to happen, I'm contractually obliged to announce that this tournament is provided by the Elite Gaming channel. It's for people who like to play or are just interested in Age of Empires 4. Check the video description for a link to their Discord and discover a new world in a chat box. I'm not the Elite Gaming channel. This is Ironcast. We're an RTS channel, and we feature only the best of what RTS has to offer. Subscribe now and get a free halberd. We don't have any currently in stock, but once we do, then sit down on the stairs and wait for the postman. or a call from your country's customs control. You should also check out the Ironcast Discord and get involved in some of our projects. One thing we want to do is big team civilization wars. So a full team of 4v4, China versus Mongols, or Abbasid Dynasty versus Delhi Sultanate, that kind of thing, to see who's the best. So head on over and get talking about it so we can make it happen. Okay, where are we now? The feudal age has arrived. It won't take long to discuss these landmarks at all. Lucifron's got the Dome of Faith. It makes scholars cost 50% less. It's kind of core if you want to speed up your research and get more scholars clocking in. England went with the Council Hall. It's the fast way to train longbows. It's just that simple. Lucifron got some stables, which would be ideal for trying to charge down these longbows, but it's still going to be tricky to field enough horsemen. The next question we ask ourselves is Lucifron going to attack with the horsemen? The scout already looking around, maybe trying to find an ideal target. Or are they just going to ride in and look threatening, I guess? Is Viper going to play defensively, or are they looking to harass with longbows? In fact, it's the latter. They're on the move. There just isn't really enough England versus Delhi Sultanate games happening right now to know how players like to play this out. One thing we know for sure, though, is that longbows are cheaper than horsemen, faster to produce than horsemen, and even though cavalry counters archers, that's only true if you have enough cavalry. On top of that, horsemen are just light armored. They aren't the heavy cavalry type like knights and lancers, which can shrug arrows off very well. And the Viper starts on the gold diggers. Ooh, gets 2. That's impressive. It looked like an attack move command, and yet both targets were hit. Viper's also bringing in some spears to help defend against cavalry. We should have a few horsemen roaming. They're up here, seemingly undecided on what to do. Attack, defend, or ambush. I think ambush is what they want, but it's the hardest out of the 3 to get. So attack it is. They find a couple of longbows out in the plains. Lucifron will take what they can get. There's a few more longbows just outside the council hall laying down covering fire. Viper desperately trying to get some health recovery from spamming those bonfires. Sadly, though, one of the longbows gets the "you died" screen, and there's a scholar out here. Looks like they've got lost, and lucky for them, there's a bounty on their face. And the Viper is looking to collect. In goes the arrows, out goes the bloods. The villagers scoot along. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, the scholar's only gone and done it. Who's behind this mask? The Flash, I knew it. In charge, the light cavalry. Does Commander Lucifron have the numbers? Well, yes they do, but the Viper orders the men to fire on the archers, and the scholar stuck around to heal. But the poor man could not heal himself. Pretty amazing that Lucifron just went back to berry picking. They called that bluff. Back to your standard kiting pattern. There's more longbows to reinforce. And an early man-at-arms. Those men-at-arms will be decent against any enemy archers, whilst the longbowmen will mop up any unit that Lucifron can field in the feudal age. Fighting the Viper head-on sure is gonna be a difficult task indeed. Viper's scout just to the west. There's a few good pockets of stealth forest to linger some scouts around. Since Lucifron has some cavalry, it's possible they'll want to indirectly attack. Go for the villagers, harass Viper's settlement, but the Viper has returned to keep up the pressure. Lucifron's got more archers this time, but the range comparison, it's almost 50% longer than your standard run-of-the-mill archer, so these poor archers in blue have to get much closer. And that's what the men-at-arms are for, armed with a sword and shield. They'll keep those normal archers away from the ones with abnormally large English arms. Looks like no more berries for the Delhi Sultanate. The Viper has control over the eastern outer edges of Lucifron settlement and does not look to be returning back to their home anytime soon. The villagers huddle around meat and they're about to run out of food. That's going to be a dire situation. Food is one of those resources that you can't live without. That's how I died the first time. And these longbows really looking to knock their arrows as much as possible. The Viper being delicate about where their feet of their soldiers tread. Moving around the back of the settlement. We're not going to be destroying any buildings today. Seems like a misuse of time. There's a battle at the front as a few of the Viper soldiers try and reinforce, but you know, the group's on the other side of the settlement, so Lucifron manages to get a favorable engage there. But meanwhile, their gold is being plundered. Lucifron has to pay attention to two locations at once, and each one is rather important for them. They have to stop these reinforcements. They have to capitalize on fighting the Viper's army whilst it's fractured and smaller. Otherwise, they're going to end up fighting a much larger, consolidated army. But at the same time, they can't just not get gold. They need that gold to be able to get to the Castle Age and unlock some of those units which are a bit more capable of fighting on even terms. In any case, though, this is certainly a victory for Lucifron. But there's just more coming, and now we're going to see an outpost up. And that network of castles bonus is going to be overbearing for Lucifron to try and deal with. It's the men-at-arms which are currently the challenge. If I recall correctly, you're probably looking at around 3 archers to kill a single man-at-arms, and even then it takes a bunch of time to do so. And we're talking a man-at-arms killing a few archers in the process. The cavalry killing off the last villager to stop that outpost going up. Absolutely crucial. Lucifron does well to stop it, but they've only stopped it for now. The outpost became a diversion for the Blue Horsemen, which meant the horsemen weren't fighting the army. Still, though, it helps that this is close to Lucifron's base and they can reinforce. We got a scout back here just watching. Lucifron's managed to get hold of some food again. Wood is fine, some more units. Just trying to guard that outpost and stop its construction. Lucifron doesn't have anything in the way of demolishing this half-baked tower. It takes some time to burn down with just 2 horsemen. Almost gives it a try. And a load of sword and shields are on their way. Viper investing more into direct counters, hoping to push them away from this area and complete this tower, which may in the future become a monument to remember those who had given their life so that it may watch over their graves. Lucifron guided the troops is pushed away. No sense of losing your archers and the tower going up. I'm sure Viper is sending over those disciple builders now that they believe the way is clear. Lucifron gonna give this one another go. A couple of villagers arrive. I'm sure archers will have arrows with their names on it. Unless their name is Johimia's Clementine, which would be too long for any arrow to have etched into it. Lucifron giving this a good go, but Viper's men-at-arms literally giving them a run for their food and wood money. Still denying that tower thus far. This has got to be the longest yet smallest battle in history. The day and a life as one of these soldiers here, they get to know each other's names and families. They have kids who train to become archers and join the very same battle that never stopped. What's that, Daddy? Shoot the archers with the longbow, Daddy. That's my boy. Oh, then he's impaled by a lance. A story as old as time. Much of Lucifron's army has dissolved. Their economic situation is just everything on food and wood. And they're going to need to find an alternative food source soon. They've been harvesting the deers back there, some scout harassing. Holding ground is just too difficult for Lucifron at the moment. Maybe if they had some towers of their own, maybe that could have helped. It's tricky finding a cost-effective solution. This might be the last militia cobbled together by Lucifron. The villagers rush towards the last deer whilst the militia try to distract the enemy. Archer on archer combat. Cavalry is better against archers than men-at-arms, at least in terms of damage. Both generals playing the kiting is magic game. Actually, I feel like I'm watching Puyo Puyo versus Tetris. Lucifron's resolve is looking strong, or at least resilient. The cavalry called away again to stop the second outpost. Now, it's just the men-at-arms to deal with. Well, not anymore. Longbows continue to make their way across the map. Lucifron's archers, which are crucial for holding out, although, honestly, I don't think any soldier they have is expendable by any means. They've done a great job with the archers and the cavalry, but they are fighting handicapped in the feudal age. Viper is playing their strength and stopping the Delhi Sultanate castle age. That's the strategy. They are thriving. Plenty of farms, even reaching out for some deer. They are still all inning this feudal age advantage. Doesn't look like there will be a castle age in the next 5 minutes, at least, keeping everyone in the feudal age and denying any hard counters to the longbows. That's what the Viper is committing to, and the forces Lucifron can bring will just have to do. Lucifron's archers aren't hitting the longbows, and their numbers depleting without a return of loss of life this time. Lucifron's had to get some farms going as well. The deer slaughterers and berry pickers had to be reallocated, many of which went to wood to get some farms going. This will create a dip in the amount of units Lucifron can bring. And you can see the Viper gets closer and closer each time. That transition period, the period of minor starvation, is looking to be deadly. I really like how spaced out these longbows are. Nice to dot them around with bonfires. I always think it's a proper pro move when you spread your ranged units out when facing cavalry and force them to have to ride between your units. That lowers their damage per second, and the white flag is raised. The Delhi Sultanate have been defeated. Victory goes to the Viper. The loss of life, don't worry about it. It's their first win of a best of 5, so still plenty of butt-kicking action to happen. You know how it goes. We've got to get into that next game. Waste no time. My name's Anuki. I'll see you shortly.